Hi everyone, Jan has prepared a story for this very special and unusual Good Friday called The Seven Faces of Easter. We hope you enjoy it. It's a slightly longer story, but it's really great. And at the end of the talk, she fades to black, and then we hear a prayer from her son Tim. So we hope you can join in. Below this post, there's a song that you might want to listen to at the end as the sun sets.
Hello there. The story I'm going to share with you this Good Friday is The Seven Faces of Easter. It's important for us to get ready. I'm going to light a candle, a purple candle, to remind us that we are in the time of getting ready for the mystery of Christmas. In the beginning, the baby was born. When the baby looked into the face of the Mother Mary, the cross was there. When the baby looked into the face of the Father Joseph, the cross was there. The Mother Mary and the Father Joseph loved the baby. They kept the baby warm, they fed the baby and helped the baby to grow. Let us light a candle for the baby. The baby grew to be a boy, and when Jesus was 7 years old, he went with his mother and father and many people from the town of Nazareth. They went to Jerusalem for a holy festival. After the festival had finished, they left through the big gates, down the road, back to Nazareth. After a while, Mary and Joseph realized that Jesus was not with them. They raced back to Jerusalem and they looked everywhere. In the markets, in the dark streets, and finally in the temple. And there he was talking with the priests and the rabbis. And they were listening to Jesus because he knew so much. And he was listening to them because he wanted to learn more. And then his parents asked the question, "Why did you do this?" And Jesus said, "Didn't you know I would be in my Father's house?" Mary and Joseph were confused. Their house was back in Nazareth. They didn't understand, but they didn't forget. Let's light a candle for the boy who was lost and found. Jesus grew to be a man, and when he was about 30, he went to the River Jordan where his cousin John was baptizing people. Jesus went into the water and stood before John and said, "Baptize me." John looked at him as if for the first time and said, "I cannot baptize you. You are the Messiah, the one we've been waiting for." But Jesus said, "No, you must do it as according to the scriptures." And as Jesus went down under the water, and then John brought him out of the water, people there said they saw a dove come down close to Jesus, and a voice speak out from heaven saying, "This is my beloved Son, with whom I'm well pleased." And then Jesus went across the Jordan and into the desert. Let us light a candle for the beloved Son of God. Jesus was in the desert for 40 days and 40 nights with very little food or water. He went there to discover more about who he was and what his work was going to be. When he was in the desert, a voice came to him and said, "Why don't you turn those stones into bread?" and have something to eat. But Jesus said, no, man does not live on bread alone. And then it was like they were standing up on a tall castle, and the voice said, if you really are the Son of God, throw yourself off and see if the angels will save you. But Jesus said, no, we do not need to test God. And then the voice showed him kingdom after kingdom after kingdom and said, if you will follow me, I will make you king of all of this. But Jesus said, no, I am to be a king, but not that type of king. And then he went back across the Jordan to start his work. Let us light the candle for Jesus. It's time in the desert. When Jesus came back, he started doing his work. But what was his work? His work was to come close to people, especially people no one else wanted to come close to. When Jesus came close to people, they could see things they couldn't see. They could do things they couldn't do. They became well. Then Jesus realized that he needed to become a parable himself, and he turned toward Jerusalem for the last time. Let us light a candle for the one who makes us well. Jesus rode in to Jerusalem on a donkey with people cheering him. They didn't really understand. He wasn't the sort of king they had expected. During the week, Jesus spent time in the temple talking to the people. The priests and the rabbis became angry with him. On Thursday, the temple guard said, we will get him tonight. But that night they couldn't find him, for he was in an upper room with his 12 disciples. And after they'd finished eating, Jesus took some bread and gave thanks to God and said something like, when you break the bread and share it like this, I will be there. And then he took the cup of wine and he gave thanks to God for it and said something like, when you share the cup of wine, I will be there. What was he saying, said the disciples. He's always saying things we don't understand. They didn't understand then. They didn't forget, and they understood later. Then Judas, one of the 12, got up and left the room. And he went out to betray Jesus. Jesus went to the garden to pray with his other disciples, and when they came back, the guards came out of the darkness and arrested Jesus. Let us light a candle to remember Jesus in the bread and the wine. That night was very confusing, and the next day Jesus was taken outside of the city gates and he was crucified. Later that day he died and was buried in a tomb, and a stone rolled across.
Lord Jesus, one of us has betrayed you, another denied you, and all have forsaken you. Yet you remain faithful to us unto death, even death on a cross. Strengthen us so we do not turn aside, but follow you to the very end. for the final victory belongs to you. Amen.